today on Ag News Daily.
What we really focus on are, call it the major trends, the macro trends. Where do we see the future challenges coming, whether that's disease, pest, weeds? You think about things going on in the regulatory space, right? Digital. So we're always looking at those factors when we invest so that we ensure we have a portfolio that in a certain year, maybe certain products will be a better fit for the grower, but in different years we have other options. So that's really why BASF's so committed to the overall breadth of our innovation.
Well, listeners, welcome back to the weekly edition of the Ag News Daily Show. We are excited to have Michelle hanging out with me this morning. It's always a great day when we don't have Delaney around, right, Michelle?
Yeah, it feels like fall outside.
It does, which means football season is getting started. So are you an Iowa State or an Iowa fan?
Neither. I like UW Madison.
You don't have a preference of any of the Iowa teams at all?
No. I just don't watch Iowa. I'm more of a Badger and Packer fan myself. So they're in Brazil today. So go Pack, go.
There you go. Yeah, we've got our big rivalry game this weekend. So I'm going to say go Cyclones. Therefore, nobody else on the podcast can say anything against me. Well, let's see what the weather's going to be like for kickoff. It is going to be a cooler weekend, feeling more like fall. As we mentioned, lows will be dropping into the 40-degree areas in some areas this weekend throughout the Midwest. Although there isn't expected to be very significant frosts, which is great news. Temperatures will gradually increase next week, and we'll still see dryness as a concern. Many of the farmers across the Midwest have missed the scattered rainfall over this holiday week, and corn is continuing to fill as well as soybean pods as the harvest season is about to get going shortly. When we look, though, Michelle, into the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, parts of the Midwest will have above or near normal levels for temperature. We will also see some precipitation levels that will be below normal. So it looks like normal temperatures in the forecast, Michelle, with less rain. The latest National Weather Service September outlook has parts of Wisconsin and the West to be slightly above monthly temperatures, while most of the Midwest is expected to be slightly drier than normal for the next coming month.
Sounds like some fun weather going on, but as we look at crop conditions, 65% of the corn crop is rated good to excellent across the 18 states growing the majority of the nation's corn, according to the latest crop progress report, maintaining last week's 65% and higher than last year's 53%. 65% of the soybean crop is also rated good to excellent this week across those states, slightly dipping 2% from last week's USDA's report. Although compared to last year, it's rated higher than 2023's 53%. 70% of the spring wheat is harvested right at the 5-year average, up 2% from last year's soybean crop, wheat crop, I meant.
Absolutely. We're certainly seeing those numbers round out as we get close to the end of that reporting window. But we've got big news, Michelle. In the southwestern corner of Nebraska, we've got a new cattle lot that will soon be the largest feedlot in the state. So great big news there in the cattle industry. The doors are set to open and take feeders later this month. Black Shirt Feeders is led by 3 veterinarians. They will start off by taking 50,000 cattle over the next 3 to 5 years. They have plans to ramp up to 150,000 head capacity, according to the project's website. This would make it one of the largest in the nation, not only the largest in the state of Nebraska. The feedlot is north of Hagler. That is a village near the Kansas and Colorado state borders. Initially, this site was chosen to be erected 2 years ago in a different location, but Michelle, opposition moved this location to where it had better groundwater quality and quantity, according to the Nebraska Examiner. A $200 million project that is located in Dundee County has seen a 21% population drop over the past dozen of years. That city is now going to have the needs to fill this working feedlot. The feedlot project will employ about 130 people. Supporters of the feedlot say that its potential to make new local markets for corn as well as local housing. The size of this project will be approximately 50% of the footprint in traditional dirt floor feedlot. and the similar capacity of roller compacted concrete. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this project. The website says this will allow for more hygienic practices in pens and diminishing the presence of flies, which was concern from locals there as well. The feedlots website states the project's goal is to create a new market and new opportunities for everybody in the area. So exciting to see new expansion taking place in the cattle industry, Michelle.
It'll be interesting how it will look like later this month and these next few months. But as we look, what's the going rate for farmland rental rate prices is oftentimes a hard question to answer. Overall, cash rent continues to go higher, but it can be dependent on the individual farm ground, the size of the field, drainage, soil fertility, ease of access for farm equipment, pressure for residential and energy development, and much more. The USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service says the average U.S. cropland rent increased by 3.2% over 2023 to $160 per acre. Irrigated cropland rose 3.4% to $245 per acre, while non-irrigated cropland rents increased 2.8% to $146 per acre. Cash rents for pastureland also increased this year to $15.50 per acre, a 3.3% increase. Hawaii, Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Maryland led the country in highest percent increase in cropland cash rental rates in 2024, ranging from 7 to 11%. By value, the highest cropland rental rates were in Arizona at $343 per acre, California at $335 per acre, and Hawaii at $326 per acre. So quite a bit there, Tanner. Yet all those states have a lot of specialty crops and orchards linked to water rights. The USDA's cash rent survey provides the basis for county estimates of the cash rent paid for irrigated cropland, non-irrigated cropland, and pasture. The USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service state and U.S. estimates were released the first week of August every year, while recently county estimates were released in late August. So very interesting to see, to say the least.
I did not expect you to say Hawaii and not include them. The California and Arizona make sense, but you caught me off guard with Hawaii. We also saw big news this last week. Koch Ag Energy Solutions, a global company providing products and services for energy, chemical, and other agricultural markets, completed a $3.6 billion acquisition of an Iowa fertilizer plant from OCI Global after announcing its pending sale last year. And criticism was received from lawmakers and farmers since the purchase gives Koch the control of what was now the largest fertilizer plant in the world. When it was built in 2017, the plant has the capacity to produce 3.5 million metric tons of nitrogen fertilizers and diesel exhaust fluid annually. Farmers are disappointed about this recent purchase and acquiring the nitrogen facility in Weaver, Iowa. They were hoping to have more competition in the space to keep values in check. Josh Linville of StoneX was telling reporters that lawmakers, farmers, and advocacy groups have expressed their fears that it would increase the high cost of fertilizers. In addition, the Federal Trade Commission and Department of Justice were urged to investigate the merger due to antitrust concerns. Most notably, Koch's fertilizer share in the U.S. production capacity jumped after the Weaver acquisition. Urea ammonium nitrate, or UAN, rose 20.5% after the acquisition, previously only holding 8.7% of the market share. Urea's market share increased by 5%. They now hold over 25% of that market, and ammonia, that market rose by another 5% to carry themselves above 16% in that market. The president of Koch says that in the last 15 years, the company's invested $2 billion into North American production facilities to enhance the reliability and expand production, as well as improve logistics for customers. He says the investment enhances the company's ability to serve customers in the long term by providing additional flexibility for their preferences. The Koch fertilizer fleet includes 4 nitrogen production facilities in the U.S. now and 1 in Canada, plus an extensive terminal network. So only the big are getting bigger, according to that news headline, Michelle.
Yeah, very interesting. While there are many reports indicating a large 2024 harvest for grain farmers across the Midwest, there have been some recent rail challenges, along with retreating water levels on the Mississippi River, that could add another layer of complexity to farmers' profitability this year. The executive director of the Soy Transportation Coalition, Mike Steenhoek, says that while water levels in the Mississippi River and other navigable waterways were higher this year from late April through mid-July compared to 2023, now going into September is not the case anymore. The amount of precipitation has diminished over the past month. Water levels have retreated as well. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the river gauge at St. Louis is just over 4 feet higher than the same time last year compared to the level at Memphis, which is over 1.5 feet lower today than the same time last year. Steenhoek says the coalition is seeing barge companies respond by announcing limits on draft and toy size limitations and is once again resulting in increasing pressure on barge freight rates. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for the week ending August 27th, barge rates originating between the Twin Cities and St. Louis, the mid-Mississippi, were 9% higher than the same week last year and 42% higher than the 3-year average at $34.15 per ton, Tanner. For freight originating in St. Louis, rates per ton were $26.62, 6% higher the same week last year and 65% higher than the 3-year average. Very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, those are, again, big numbers, and certainly numbers that aren't helping the world of agriculture. But now if we jump across the pond, after several months of negotiations, the final strategic report of the European Union's farming and food systems has been released. Earlier in September, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she stated that the conversations brought together stakeholders from the European agri-food sectors, including farmers, NGOs, consumers, food retailers, to reach this common understanding and vision for the future of the EU's farming and food system. The 110-page report, A Shared Prospect for the Farming and Food in Europe report, represents the challenges and opportunities, followed by recommendations to guide the work of the European Commission in shaping the vision for agriculture and food that is due to be delivered in the first 100 days of President von der Leyen's second term. She told journalists that the farmers have felt that they were being micro-controlled and that she would feed in their vision into this report. 5 key pillars were put towards the report, including working together for sustainable, resilient, and competitive future, advancing towards sustainable agri-food systems, promoting transformative resilience, and building an attractive, diverse sector in addition to better access to knowledge and innovation. A lot of great things included in that report, Michelle. The report suggests basing common agriculture policy payments on income, not acreage. The report recommends subsidies should go to active farmers who need it most based upon the economic viability instead of allocating direct support to farmers according to the amount of land owned and linking it to mandatory environmental standards. Additionally, the proposal was included in the report to encourage consumers to cut their meat intake through tax incentives and labeling. So it almost feels like some of that is backwards to what we'd think about here in the U.S., Michelle, but that's what's included in their report.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was in Europe earlier this year, and just to hear the farmers' frustrations were just very, understanding and where they were coming from, and just reading this report. It's a long one, but it was cool just to hear their opinions upon it. But last week at the Farm Progress Show, we heard from BASF, so let's get into that interview.
So it is our pleasure to have Brian Perry here with BASF. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Tanner and Delaney.
So what's the title with BASF? Let's learn a little bit about you and what your role is.
Yeah, so my current role is the U.S. head of seeds and traits with BASF. I've been with the company for 26 years in a litany of roles, currently based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and just glad to be in a position that I can help contribute and innovate to growers like the ones sitting in our crowd here today.
Now, Brian, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about your background. They have you out in Raleigh, but you're not originally from that area. So did you grow up in agriculture, and how'd you find yourself working for BASF?
Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity to highlight that I'm a 5th generation of my family to be involved in agriculture. Grew up on a farm in northwest Missouri, so I hope the Iowa crowd here won't hold that against me. But very proud to have been in farming, and I farm today. I have about 80 acres that I own myself that I run a pencil on. It's fun to go back and help my dad out, and that's really what's got me into agriculture and kept me in it.
love that there's a connection inside some of these larger ag corporations to really put together a lot of direction. As BASF has been working with growers for a long time, how has this year played out for your customers?
Yeah, the thing about ag that everybody knows that's so fun is that every year is so different, right? Whether it's the weather challenges, whether it's the commodity prices. I'd say what I've been seeing as far as this year, you could start off with a bit of a delayed planting season in areas. Then eventually we got in the fields, and then, of course, the faucet shuts off for a little bit. But all in all, if you look across the Corn Belt, there's a pretty good crop out in the field. Now, that's had, obviously, a negative impact on commodity prices. But still, at the end of the day, when our growers are putting bushels in their bins, that's a good day, right? That's why you grow a crop. So I'd say all in all, while we have challenges, next year will be no different. I'd say this year has been a pretty positive year overall. Now, some places maybe, little different weather patterns here and there, but as a whole.
Well, we'll see combines roll in here in just about a month, and we'll really start to see what some of that crop looks like coming out of the field. But considering that, as you mentioned, every year is so different from an environmental perspective, from access to technology perspective, sitting in the unique role that you do as head of seed and trait, how do you make decisions year to year, knowing every year looks so different, to be able to provide that latest and greatest product to growers?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because when you think about a lot of the innovation that BASF invests in, so for example, we spend 11% of every dollar that a grower purchases from a BASF brand, we put that back into basic R&D. If you think about a new crop protection product, that takes at a minimum 10 to 11 years to get to market after you've discovered the compound. So if I back that up even further, you're talking 15 plus years. And then when you think about seeds and traits, it can take you 20 to 25 years to get a new trait to market. So back to the seasonality, you're always going to have that. What we really focus on are, call it the major trends, the macro trends. Where do we see the future challenges coming, whether that's disease, pest, weeds. You think about things going on in the regulatory space, right? Digital. So we're always looking at those factors when we invest so that we ensure we have a portfolio that in a certain year, maybe certain products will be a better fit for the grower, but in different years, we have other options. So that's really why BASF's so committed to the overall breadth of our innovation.
Yeah, it's a lot of technology out here that's involving AI and trying to use predictive analytics. And a lot of the pushback we get from those interviews and conversations is you can't control the weather. So it's good to see that you're looking at the macro side of things, the overall picture. But as BASF continues to push forward with innovation, what are some of the new things that they're working on the crop protection side?
Yeah, so really fun for me because that's where I started on the crop protection side before I got into seeds and traits. I'd say this upcoming year, we'll be launching a new herbicide called Liberty Ultra. So many in the crowd will recognize Liberty. And with the trait shifts and things we see going on, it's one of the most widely used tools to help control palmer pigweed, water hemp. Liberty Ultra will be safer, it'll be a lower use rate, it'll be more efficacious, and we have other future innovations that will keep making that offering better. We have a new corn herbicide that we're extremely excited about called Certain, and it will be a formulation of pyroxasulfone and or our Kixor herbicide technology, but in a nutshell, it's bringing a new side of action really to corn. So not a lot of PPOs are used in corn today, mostly in soybean. So it will bring in a PPO. It'll bring really long residual. So those are a couple of the really big crop protection innovations that would be coming in 25. But when you look at 26, 27, 28, I think we've got a total of about 25 products over the next 4 years that we'll be bringing. And I haven't even touched on the seeds and traits part of the business that I get the chance to manage as well.
Well, that's where I'm headed next. Let's talk about some of those new things coming down the seed and trait pipeline.
Yeah, just like put that on a tee,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
A softball. So I appreciate that.
Give her all the easy questions.
Yeah. So for me, this is what's so fun about being here at Farm Progress. So BASF has not been as an exhibitor at Farm Progress for the past 14 years. The last time we were here was when we launched Kixor herbicide technology. So some of the audience would recognize that as Sharpen or Verdict or Optil, now Zidua Pro. That was game-changing at the time because at the time that was all Roundup, right? So now, being here 14 years later, we're launching an entirely new soybean breeding program into the U.S. for growers through our Zitavo soybean seed brand. So why should people care? Well, The reason why they should care is because today 98% of all the soybean genetics that feed, by the way, 160 soybean brands across the U.S. come out of 4 major breeding programs. So we believe that diversity is key. You know that bringing new sources of genetics, germplasm, is how you push yields higher. Growers need choice, and we'll be bringing the 5th major breeding program to the U.S. We have a breeding station right in Nevada, Iowa, so about 30 to 40 minutes from here. And this upcoming year, we'll have 12 varieties that are from a mid-group 2 to a mid-group 4 that we'll be launching through our Zetavo lineup, all bred right here in Iowa. And then next year, there'll be even more coming where we get into 0s and 1s. And that sets the stage for future traits that I'll tease a little bit more in a bit, but I probably need to let you ask me a question, Tanner.
Right. I'm excited because you're doing the research and the breeding right here locally. And obviously that really puts a lot of emphasis on what Iowa farmers, for example, can expect out of these beans going forward. How do your team work to make sure that there are soybeans provided that will work on farms throughout the entire Midwest?
Oh, man, that's it's a big challenge and big opportunity, because being a farmer myself, it's one thing to have a company say, oh, these things perform really well, but you want to know they perform really well on your farm and your operation. So relative to just soybeans and breeding, we have our breeding teams that do all their work scattered across the Midwest. We have 4 major breeding stations. We mentioned Nevada. We got one in Sabin, Minnesota for further north, Lincoln, Nebraska, and then Champaign, Illinois. And then from there, our local agronomic teams do a ton of in-field trials. And as we get 1 year from market, then we really do a lot of on-farm testing with our growers, and then we only advance the best of the best. So, for example, I mentioned 12 this year. That started off as 10,000 that we started evaluating. That then we walked all the way down to last year 30, and then we picked 12 of the 30, and we did not advance anything that wasn't yielding 102% or greater of the current lineup we're already selling. So farmers don't want to buy something new unless it's performing better. But a lot of research, Tanner, that connects all the way down to the growers when we make our advancement decisions.
So you mentioned 102% or greater. What does that mean from a bushels per acre perspective? And I'm sure that there are other benefits outside of just increased yield, and maybe talk us through what some of those are as well.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because you think about first the yield benefits. So if I start there, our current baseline, Zetavo, we've really put a lot of effort into quality and the right seed placement. So I'd kind of highlight one of the other factors you mentioned. You got to put the right seed on the right acre. You can go out to a plot and say, man, that soybean won that plot. Well, yeah, but that plot doesn't have your soil types, your conditions, your cation exchange capacity ratios, all these. You need to know what's going to fit your farm. And so we've done a lot of research, like Tanner asked, to ensure when we bring out a soybean, we can say, no, this is the one that needs to work on your farm. So when you combine the genetics, the seed placement, and the quality, our current Zetavo lineup has been yielding about 3.4 bushels greater than the competition on average, right? We verify this through what we call Farmers Independent Research of Seed Technology. So it's a third party. So we did 5,000 trials over the past 2 years to come up with that number. That's not BASF data. We also don't win all the trials, right? It's an average. We've got good competitors out there. There's times that they win, but on average, we've been at this higher level. Now to the new, where we get excited, what does that 102% mean? It means 1.7 bushels better than what we were selling in 24. That's what we saw on average. We'll see what the combines tell us this fall, but right now the early results look very promising.
That is exciting and innovation, because sometimes you feel like, Delaney, with the number of hybrid numbers that are out there, that there is no clear difference between what we had in the past versus what we just replaced it with, and it's sometimes really hard to track that data. But before we wrap up, you teased more advancements on the seed and trait side of things, so why don't you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I go back to what's kept me at BASF as long as I have is that commitment to innovation so we can help growers. Looking ahead, we have been innovating a new novel GM trait to control soybean cyst nematode. So the audience here, if they don't think they have soybean cyst nematode, it's probably something they haven't tested, or most know that there's a problem. It's the number one yield-robbing pest in soybeans. It takes $1.5 billion worth of value out of the soybean market. Our current solutions, which would be native traits to control, are starting to break down. Just like in herbicides, we see weed resistance, we see the same thing with nematodes. So we've innovated a new trait The name of it is Nemisphere. We just announced it this year. It will launch in 2028. Now, another little fun fact, I mentioned this is the first time back here in 14 years. 2 years ago at the media tent, though, we announced that we had developed this trait at Farm Progress. So it's fun to be back 2 years later to say, now here's the breeding program, here's the future trait. What we've seen out of that is an 8% increase in yield, and that's also looking at compared to the current standards, which would be like a Peking resistant variety or a PI 8878. That'd be, some of the current standards. Beyond that, early next decade, we've got a new PPO tolerance trait with new PPO herbicides that also help control Palmer amaranth that will launch early next decade. And way out there, hopefully I'm retired by then, but way out by the end of next decade, we have a new mode of action for row crop. So it's something everybody's screaming for that helps control Palmer amaranth, water hemp, and we have a new trait to complement it. But I go back to that timeline. Now you're talking about 2039. Like, we're working on things now from a seeds and traits, germplasm, and crop protection that won't be here for quite some time.
That's just insane to think how far out you can work and have to work to be able to stay ahead on the latest innovation. But Brian, as we think about kind of wrapping up our discussion for today, we've talked about a lot of great opportunities for growers to try something new in their field. There's a lot of new products, seeds, traits, crop protection opportunities. Where is the best place for them to go to find out more information?
Yeah, we really believe in working with their local ag retailer. I mean, we know we're not the experts in their operations. They work with other folks for fertility and other aspects of their business. And we also have relationships with our own field reps. So where they have a relationship with their local BASF representative, that's a great place. Or you can go to our website, bsfagsolutions.com, to learn more, and then go ask your local ag retailer.
That's great. We appreciate your information. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It was the first day back for some of our listeners at college and maybe even back in the field for parents. We would love to see your first day of harvest pictures in the upcoming weeks or first day of fall happening on September 22nd. You can send them to email at Michelle, Michelle, at agnewsdaily.com, or it's linked below. We'll share them later this month and ours too. I can't believe harvest is almost here.
I know, you're right. It's certainly going to be exciting to see everybody getting tagged together on social media, kind of like we do back to school. So thanks for putting that together for us. More coming out of Josh Linville's report. With harvest right around the corner, like you mentioned, we're going to continue to see lower grain prices. Demand certainly has not helped the situation after seeing a lackluster sales report for multiple weeks in a row. Josh Linville told reporters the fertilizer market is shifting back towards normal, realizing the power buyers have, after a few years, seen some early buying and solid income. However, the longer demand stays away, the more pressure will build on those manufacturers. There are tighter supplies than normal for ammonia and urea. We are continuing to take a look at what supply concerns we have for urea globally. There's 3 to 4 million ton shortfall from China, 1.5 million tons from Brazil, and 3 million tons from the European Union region. So globally, the focus on phosphate remains one of the largest exporters scaling back. So we'll continue to keep an eye on here. The largest buyers are needing to play catch up. So we're talking almost across the board, Michelle, tighter supplies, and we're behind on demand.
Mm-hmm. What will these next few months look like as we end off 2024? But as we look at new crop corn, it's finally traded back above $4, closing higher for 5 consecutive sessions before pulling back on Thursday. After setting a low in late August, we may have seen our low put in as we head into harvest, but time will only tell whether the last few trading sessions are a sign markets have put in their low or short-term short covering. On Thursday, the USD reported a flash sale of 189,700 metric tons of soybeans to unknown destinations for the 2024 through 2025 marketing year and 126,000 metric tons to China for 2024 through 2025. This follows a sale of 131,000 metric tons earlier this week and confirms some of yesterday's rumor that China had purchased more U.S. soybeans. Soybeans were able to finish Thursday's trading session in the green, but overall continue to have sluggish sentiment at best. So what will these next few months bring? That will be one to tell.
Absolutely. That is to certainly get some farmer sentiment back up. It'd be great to see a couple of days in the green at least to present some opportunities for some sales. But listeners, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on Ag News Daily. We always appreciate you sending us these news articles and excited to see what your harvest photos look like. So reminder to tag us or send them to Michelle at agnewsdaily.com. So what do you say for today, Michelle? Should we let the listeners go?
Let's let them go.